Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our next and final episode in the Man Machine Getting Started in Inventor series. Today, as you can see, we're going to be looking at the ability to collaborate with people outside of our organization from within Inventor. So the different options that we have available to us for collaborating with people outside of our current organization. Now, I suppose when in the manufacturing industry, we look at collaborating outside of our organization, I suppose there are two sides to doing that. We're either collaborating once our finished products are created, whether it be an architect that's looking for a model of our components, whether it be a manufacturer that's looking for it after we've designed it. A lot of the time, we're collaborating after our product is complete. There are also some instances where we will be collaborating with another designer or the manufacturer themselves while we're still designing the components. And we want to be able to share our parts, our designs with them during that process. So there are two ways or two different times during our process that we'd want to be able to collaborate outside of our companies. And today we're going to be looking at some of the options for both of those routes, whether, again, during the initial design process or whilst designing, and also once we've already created our components, once we've created all of our designs, what are the best ways for sharing that information with our respective clients and manufacturers and so on. So, again, without any further ado, we'll go straight into the product, and the product being Inventor. So today I've just got this model up just as a quick example again, just a basic data set. You might recognize this from one of the previous videos that we've done on the series. And yeah, essentially we're just going to be looking at the various ways of getting information out and to our colleagues. So the first and probably most important way we would want to go through with exporting the information, collaborating with others, is through the use of drawings. Drawings are the fundamental process of getting the information across. So we have done an entire episode on creating drawings inside of Inventor. So if you haven't already seen that, please feel free to go and look throughout our YouTube channel. There will be a video specifically on drawings throughout this current series. But just as a bit of a recap, we've got the ability inside of any assembly, any part, to be able to create a drawing to convey what we're needing to output. We can do this multiple ways, and the easiest way, if you do have the drawing, or sorry, the components open, the file itself open, is to right-click on the component in the top level and say that we want to go in and create a drawing view of the assembly of the part. I've already done this in another tab in the drawing itself. I've already placed down all of the views for that. So I can go over to the drawing view I've created. Inside here, I haven't added any dimensions, but I have added different views of the assembly itself with an isometric view and a bill of materials. Sorry, my mouse is flipped around. I've got to remember to zoom out rather than in. And essentially, we got the ability to then have this part that's created as part of that process. And then from here, essentially, it's just a case of printing this off, really, or sending this out in a format. So we could either send the entire drawing file as it is, not very common, or we could then print this off to a format that the end user will be able to receive from them. So we can either go through and print this off in the normal manner. We can go into File. We can go down to Print, and inside of Print, we've got various options available to us. We can either go print through a physical printer, or we have got the ability as well to go through, and if you have Adobe installed, we've got Adobe PDF, we've got Microsoft Print to PDF, and we've also got OneNote available to us. So we can go and print to PDF as part of this process. And now, if you're using the likes of a Vault, you've got the ability, Vault Professional, to be able to print to PDF from inside of that, so you can convert any file into PDF as well during that process. So we've got various ways of going through that and being able to share our information from there. Otherwise, we could just send the raw DWG file. or we could push out a DXF file as well as part of the process. So we've got quite a few different ways of going through this and actually pushing out information from a drawing file. So that is one of the ways. Another way would be using a collaborate option. So we'll touch on this a little bit more later on in the exercise, but we've got the ability, or the exercise, the webinar, we've got the ability to use the collaborate tab inside of Inventor. And you can see we've got various collaboration options available to us if you are using Upchain, which is one of the new cloud management products for Autodesk. We've got the ability to use Upchain as the data management from inside here. We've also got the ability to use a data exchange where we could synchronize from Inventor to Autodesk Construction Cloud, which is the main cloud platform that the AEC collection, the Architectural Engineering and Construction group, will be using. So if you are, again, engaging with architects, engaging with engineers on bigger scale projects, we've got the ability to use a data exchange using that. Or if you perhaps even within your own organization have the Autodesk Construction Cloud subscriptions, you can use your data exchange to set that up. Again, we have created a video on this before. One of my colleagues, Chris, has done a video on using that data exchange, and I think Robin has as well. So again, feel free to go through our YouTube channel and have a look at those instructions. We simply just don't have time to go through all of those options in this particular webinar. But we do have that information on our YouTube channel and some really good videos. So do have a look in that, and I'll get them to drop a link to that in the description as well. So please do have a look at that. We've also got shared views available. So this is a tool that's available throughout the Autodesk platform, whether you're using AutoCAD, whether you're using Inventor, whether you're using Vault, whether you're using Revit. We've got the ability to create these shared views. And this will essentially host a version of your file on an Autodesk server that you can then share access to temporarily. So by default, this gives access for 30 days. You can always extend that if you wanted to, or you could retract access to that. You could have various levels of security on there as to who has access to it, whether they're able to download or whether they're only able to view the files. And on that, I'll, rather than going through the drawing, I'll show you that in the assembly itself. So if I grab the assembly over here, we've got access to that there. If I go onto my Collaborate tab from inside of this, you'll see we've still got that same shared views option available to us. If I grab shared views from inside here, it brings up this little dialog on the right-hand side over here, where it'll ask us or give us permission to then go through and create a shared view. So if I, rather than grabbing it from inside here, if I just do a share, let's grab it from in our file dropdown. We can go and grab share from inside the file dropdown, and we can go and upload a shared view to view and share online. This will go through the dialog of asking us, what do we want to call this? If you've already got your own name configured, or if your part has an internal part number and want to make it a bit clearer to an external viewer, we've got the ability to rename our file from here. We've also at this point got the ability to hide any component names. So if we do have any intellectual property that we want to hide or suppress the visibility of, whether it be any component names and so on, we've got the ability to hide that as well in here. And as you can see, we've also got the ability to hide part properties. So if you didn't want external providers or external viewers to see any information that might be a bit, either they need an NDA for, or you just don't want to let out any of your secrets, we've got the ability to hide these from inside here. I'll leave these unticked. I don't have anything in particular that I don't want anybody to see on this one. So I'll just go and share this view. So as soon as I hit that, you'll see it goes really quickly. It'll go and synchronize this to a cloud storage location. And as you can see really quickly, I mean, I don't have a big assembly in this case, but for the size, it's really quick as to how we can get access to that. So we can basically go in and you can see how it shows us the shared views panel on the right-hand side over here. It's telling me that this is going to be expiring. This link or this share is going to expire in 30 days. In the three little dots over here, I've got the ability to view in browser, copy link. I can extend that viewing time, or I can delete that as well. Or as soon as I've done this, it gives me the option down here at the bottom as well to view in browser or copy link. So I'm going to say copy link. So it's copied to my clipboard. All I have to do now is right click on here, say I want to go and create a new Microsoft Edge instance, open that up, and I can drop that link straight into my view. Now, anybody who has access to that particular link can now view this drawing or this part. And you can see this brings it up inside of the Autodesk viewer. And they can view this in 3D. They can rotate the model around. They can zoom in, zoom out. And this is really powerful viewer as well during this process. We've got a whole lot of other options. We can go into first person mode. We can zoom, pan, orbit, and so on. We could also make quick measurements. So I can go from this top surface to the bottom surface. If I pan orbit around, there we go. Same tools as before. So if I want to orbit, we've got our shift and our middle mouse button. I can grab the bottom surface of that, and I can see the dimensions during that process. I've also got the ability to go in and measure other items as well during this process. But just hit escape, it then cancels that out. What we can also do, again, I've enabled the visibility of the part numbers and properties and all of that. So if I had to go in here, I can go into my model browser and I can see all of the components that make up this assembly. I can go to the properties of these, select the item, and I can see some properties of the component inside of that. If I grab this washer over here, we can see various properties available to it as well. So you can see really handy, really great functionality in this viewer. If people need to make quick adjustments or have a quick look at your components from inside here, we've got the ability to do so. So this can be done either at the end of the process, once you've created the final finished product, or during the design process as well, if you ever needed to. So during the design process, I could, as a viewer, come in and do a markup on here. If I find the bolts over here maybe a little bit too large, maybe we want a little bit of an indentation, a little bit of a cutout so that the bolts fit nice and neatly in there, I can go and use a markup tool, choose the color that I want, use the tool, so I can use a pencil, I can use an arrow, I can use a rev cloud, and I can use a bit of text if I wanted to. Oh, if I could spell, that would be great. And as soon as I'm happy with that markup, I can then just save that. And whoever has shared that, this will be situated on that link itself. So in the shared views, as long as that shared view is accessible, people can actually still see that. And you can see we've got a link to that. So I could actually, as the viewer, copy a link to that, send that to the person that I want to have a look at that. And then either I can mark this as resolved or they can mark it as resolved and so on. You could also export that as well, take a screenshot if we wanted to, or share this if we needed to, depending on the permissions that are configured as part of that. We've also got the ability in our settings to change configurations. If there were any configurations, we've got the ability to change the appearances, so we can enable or disable anti-aliasing if we find that it's a little bit slow. We've also got the ability to change environment as well, that this is shown inside of, and this is one of the newer features that they've got available now. So we've got the ability to have this on a boardwalk, in a field. We can have lighting be affected by the background. Got the ability to, again, change the appearances, change how the navigation is done inside of this. So a lot of configurability in the way we look at the components themselves. If I then go back inside of Inventor, we should see inside of Inventor, sometimes it does take a little while to synchronize. If I go into that, you can see automatically If I click on the view or the shared view that I made, now it shows that one comment. I can come in and, as the designer, go into that view and have a look very quickly at the markup that was created as part of that process. So it opens up inside of the viewer. I can see who made the markup, what the markup was, and any details surrounding that. I can also have a quick view of that from inside of Inventor itself. And if I wanted to, I could mark that as resolved if I've made those adjustments from inside here. And that'll then remove it from that list. Again, we've got full control of these shared views. So at any point, if I wanted to, I've decided that the person who viewed it has seen enough of it and we don't want them to see any more of this. I can then, on this section over here, either mark this entire thing as resolved or delete the view. If I say I want to delete the shared view, that then removes it from my shared views over here. Now, the user would still be able to see it if they still had this browser open, but any new updates won't be visible anymore. If they had to try and reopen this, if I had to do a refresh on here, we should now see that the design view has expired. So they can no longer view that item from inside them. So really handy bit of functionality that we've got inside. And then, as I say, this is available whether you're inside of Inventor, whether you're inside of AutoCAD, Vault, whichever product you're inside of. Autodesk are rolling this out to the core products initially, but they are rolling it out to the others at the same time. One of the other options we have as well, this is more in line with sharing the raw data, the file itself, inside of your environment again, and that is within our grab it here inside of our assemble tab in the assembly, or it will be inside of the part tab or the modeling tab inside of your part itself. But we've got the ability to create a simplification of our model as well. So if you are wanting to export your finished product, or at least a finished version of the product, but again had a whole lot of intellectual property that you didn't necessarily want shared out, and you just wanted to make it as simple as possible. Again, an architect has asked for your model, whether it be a chair, whether it be a table in this case, whether it be a duct. We've got the ability, if we wanted to, inside of Inventor, to create a simplification of our model itself. So using the Simplify tool, we can choose the input. So the model version that we're wanting to grab as part of this process, whether it be the primary model, whether it be a different model state. We can choose on the view that we want as well during the process. If you have varying positions of your component, we've got the ability to grab from in here. And if we wanted to replace any envelopes, we could decide on how those are being replaced, or replace with an envelope. So we could take an entire assembly or an entire hierarchy and put everything into one envelope. And you can see it's going to take the extents of an entire object and create an envelope around it, pretty much showing a big void where the item would be. So again, this is down to the levels of detail that you want to include. I can go and drop that to the assembly level, so a top level component, and you can see how it's broken each of the components into their own envelopes. Or I can say every single part needs to be an envelope, and it'll break that down. So in this case, it hasn't done much because I don't have many bottom level assemblies or lower level assemblies other than these two side components, and it's pretty much done the same. But if you ever needed to, we've got the ability to, you can see, I think it's just a dowel in there. So if I go to a top level component, the sideboards extend that a little bit more. So it's just taking the extents of your assembly or your components or parts and just creating an envelope around them, ensuring that we don't see all of the detail of that. We could also come in and tell Inventor at this part to exclude certain components. So if there are components within a certain size range, or we can come in and select individual components that we don't want to include as part of this simplification. We can remove certain features. So if there's certain features that you don't necessarily need, if we don't want any holes, we can say all of the holes in this assembly we want to remove as part of this process. So it'll remove any holes inside of that. We can also remove all fillets, all chamfers, embosses, tunnels, preserves, and so on. We can highlight them in the view, and you can see which ones will be selected as part of that process. Once we've told Inventor how we want to simplify this model, whether going really primitive with an envelope or whether we still want to keep some of the details and we just want to remove certain features or certain components, we've got the ability to do that. And then we can tell it what the output is that we want. So do we want a new part file created as part of this process? Do we want a substitute? So we still want to keep it in this assembly, but we want a substitute model created as part of this process. Or do we at this point want to create a Revit model? You've got the ability to do so during this. We can use a template if you were using a template or have your own template pre-configured and wanted certain standard functionality inside of your part. We've got the ability to grab so from here. And then we can tell it what name we want to call this component, where we want to save it, what the bill of material structure is, and so on, as if we were creating a new part on its own. Then right down at the bottom, we've got the ability to choose how the solids are treated. So if we're doing it with envelopes, it wouldn't matter as much necessarily for this, but in this case, we're using still the same parts. So we can decide on how we want those parts to be configured going out of this. Do we want all of the single bodies that are in contact with each other to be merged into one solid object? Or do we still want to see that there are separate bodies inside of this? So if somebody had to go and take a section of this view, would they still be able to see where the individual parts merge together or intersect with each other? We can come in and see in between them, but we'll still see the individual items. Otherwise, we can ensure that every single body that exists inside of this assembly is separate, completely separate, and they're considered independent bodies during that process. And then the last one is just to make sure that everything is a single composite feature. So it's just considered a feature and not a body as part of that process. In this case, I'm going to pretend that I don't want anybody seeing any internal components, whether it be the dowels, but there be some intricate mechanism connecting everything inside of this assembly. So I'm going to say that all of the single bodies need to be merged into one same part. We've got some advanced options as well, whether we want to fill internal voids, whether we want to remove any internal parts. So once we've created a envelope of sorts, if there's anything inside, we can remove those to A, bring the file size down, and again, B, removing the intellectual property during the process if we wanted to. We could use a color override from any of the source components that's creating it as an umbrella for everything else. We can break the link to the original item and make independent bodies for any failed booleans. So I'll leave these as default for now and just hit OK on there. It's then going to go and think about that for a few seconds, and you can see now how it's removed all of those holes, all of the chamfers, all of the fillets, all of the bolts, and it's really nicely simplified the entire model for me. So you can see some detail during this process, but for the most part, it's created a really nice basic version of my model that can very easily be placed inside of a Revit model. Doesn't have too much detail for that, or we can send this off and other people can then view it as part of that process as well. What it has done is also then gone and created a new file as part of that process. Another option we have, speaking of the ability to collaborate with architects and engineers in that and pushing out to Revit, is if I go back to my assembly model over here, we've got the ability in our environments tab to be able to go in and create some BIM content. So if you are again collaborating with architects and they're asking for some BIM models or Revit families, we've got the ability to do so inside of Inventor as well. So if I had to go into BIM content over here, first of all, it's going to want me to create a simplified model of the component itself. So once it realizes everything that's inside of this model, I've got the ability in here to, first of all, asking for a UCS. So let me grab that and place it right at the foot of this part and see if that's happy with that. Let's finish, we can restart that. I don't know why it's not giving me the option for all the other components. Unless I'm taking. Okay, bit of patience is fine. Cool. So what you'll see is once we've come into this BIM content environment or this contextual tab over here, first option is to simplify the model. We can't take, or we shouldn't be taking heavily detailed models from Inventor and pushing them into Revit. Revit wants to see as simple a model as possible to get an understanding of its shape and size and volume, essentially, for the component itself. And so to do so, we just need to go through the simplification process. We've already done that, so I'm not going to bore you with that. It's exactly the same process as what I did with the other section earlier to create that simplified part. So we could theoretically go straight into this part over here and go through the same process. If I to go into environments over here, we've got the ability to create a BIM component out of a part file. It might be a bit quicker in this one, it is. So I'm just going to use this one instead. So from here, we've got the ability, if we ever needed to then set up how this component will work inside of Revit, whether it is a cable tray connector, a conduit connector, a duct connector, pipe connector, or electrical connector. If it is one of those items, we would want to come in and choose the type that it is, and that will give us varying options for connector points to this component. This particular one isn't either of those, so we could actually go straight to authoring the building component. And using this, we've got the ability to set the orientation, set an insertion point if we needed to, what family type it's going to be set as. We can add a description in here, manufacturer, model, and URL. We can grab any model properties and add them into this, and any Omnicast numbering or naming if that's required for this particular component. We've got the ability to use our library to search for the component type in there. Once we've got that all configured, we can then go and export the building component, and this will create it as a Revit family file. So any native Revit users can simply just drag that and place it straight into their models, and it'll work as if it were created as a Revit family inside of Revit. So really great collaboration available there. Again, this is one of those ones that's more towards the end of your product lifecycle or the product development lifecycle. So once we have created the components and finished the design, this is a great way of then sharing that with your colleagues that might require that, or even during the product development, during the R&D phase, perhaps you need to see how this item fits inside of the finished building. We've got the ability to use that in this process. Cool. And then the other option we do have as well, another one that we've done a video of previously, it is on our YouTube channel, so do check it out if it is something that's of interest to you. I unfortunately don't have it set up on my side, but we've got the ability to use our Vault connection if you are using Autodesk Vault, and connect that to ACC as well, Autodesk Construction Cloud. So if you are collaborating with people inside of that are using the Autodesk Construction Cloud, we've got the ability to create a synchronization between Vault and the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So that can be configured inside of Vault itself. Not particularly an Inventor feature, more a Vault feature, but we do have that as an option as well. Again, that is on our YouTube channel, and I will also get somebody to drop a link of that in the description as well, if that is something of interest to you. Do feel free to have a look at the process behind that. And then the benefit of that is then can use your Autodesk Construction Cloud and your Autodesk Desktop connector to do a synchronization to your local folder structure if that was ever something required. So we've got the ability to use both. And the last one I just want to show you, which is a bit of a, in my opinion, a bit of a more nerdy, excitable way of viewing your models. Again, I've done a video of this one before, but the creation process is so simple. It's really a great bit of functionality that we have now inside of Inventor, and that's the ability we have to create and export augmented reality models. So inside of our export options, we have, if I go to File and Export from inside of this assembly, it's taking a little while for some reason. Let me just make sure I've got that selected. There we go. So in our export options, we've got the ability to export to different CAD format. So if I use CAD format option over here, in the drop-down, we have two new file formats that are available to us. The first one is the GITF, otherwise GLB or GITF. And this file format is pretty much the backbone of what the likes of Facebook, Android, and a few of the more mainstream AR, VR companies are using as the native modeling tool, or the native model type that they're using inside of their environments. So directly from inside of Inventor, we can export to these file formats. So we've got those two file formats there. And then we've also got a USD-Z file format, which is the file format that Pixar originally developed to help their team collaborate between multiple products. And it's now forming the backbone of Apple. So if you have an iPhone or iPad or any of the Apple products, in their virtual environments, they will be using USD-Z file format or USD file format. So from inside of Inventor, we can actually export directly into the two native file formats for almost every single device. On that, the GITF or GLB is also being used for the likes of your Microsoft as well. So between the 2 or 3 file formats, we've now got the ability to export these directly into the products that we're wanting to do. And the nerdy bit of it, for me at least, is the ability we have to go straight from our design that is inside of our computer, sending that off, whether it be through a message, whether it be through an email, to a device, or even using cloud if you wanted to, and opening that file up straight on your device and being able to view it in the real world. So if we have this table and want to make sure that it fits in the room that we're wanting to collaborate with or to install it in, we've got the ability to view it straight on there. It is going to be the correct size because we've told Inventor the exact size it needs to be. So all that's required is placing it down onto a plane in your environment, and you've got the ability to view that file. Again, we do have a video of that on our YouTube channel, so do feel free to have a look at the process behind that. But yeah, just the last one that I thought would be worthwhile mentioning during this process. Cool. Other than that, I think that's pretty much all we needed to get through today. And this is closest to the end that I've actually finished. So yeah, on time for a change. But I hope that's been beneficial to you. I hope you've enjoyed this series as we've gone through right from the beginning, from the sketching environment to drawings, to modeling, to presentations, to Vault. And yeah, if you have any questions, as per usual, please feel free to drop a message in the comments below. We do always monitor that, so that's a great way if you wanted that. If there are other videos you'd like us to make going forward, any ideas you've had or would like to see more of, something that you're a bit more interested in outside of Inventor or any of the other products that we supply, do drop a message and we'll try and get to creating a video of that. But other than that, thank you all for your time over the series. And yeah, have a great day further. And if you are watching this before the new year, have a happy new year. Thank you very much. Bye.